It's a pleasure to introduce my speakers for the day. I would like to introduce with Mr. Vishwash Mahajan. Mr. Vishwash Mahajan, an entrepreneur in exile, recently exited from his software product venture Compulink that he bootstrapped, ran for 12 years, got VC investment and took it public before merging. Currently on sabbatical, he has taken up the task of rebuilding Pune chapter and is currently its president. Additionally, he has invested in 2 early stage ventures, a lifestyle real estate venture in picturesque Konkan region and education venture in performing arts area. Vishwas will be assisted by my friend Chetan Thakkar, an entrepreneur growing his family business of industrial fragrances. So let's start the session on business model validation.
Yeah, whether it matters. Just as a quick house announcement, I hope everybody's got a bunch of post-it notes, some sketch pens, and you don't have? Okay, Chetan, I think the next session starts at 6:30, right? So we could extend a little bit, we're okay. So, what we're going to do today, as we had indicated in the flyer that was shared with you, is to work, use this, little artistic tools that we have got and understand a framework which will help each one of us generate and articulate our business model. So before I get started, let me just do a quick show of hands. And how many of us are already in business, already entrepreneurs who have started their businesses? Okay, good. I think the remaining of you are wannabe entrepreneurs or students. What is it? Wannabe entrepreneurs? Okay, good. Anybody who has run business more than 10 years? Okay, few of you. Okay, good. So, it is my belief that regardless of where you are in the stage of your entrepreneurial journey, whether you are going to be starting or you are already started your business, your venture, or even if you are quite late into your venture, this exercise may actually prove somewhat valuable, as it did for me personally. We have about 2 hours or so today with each other, and we'll try to maximize our investment in time together. But the most important thing we want to do in today's session is to really work and think on our own business and the structure that we're going to discuss, try to apply it to our own businesses, and hopefully the sheet that you will take back with you will be a good starting point for you to develop on. Yeah? We all know this, right? It all starts with an idea. All too familiar. I think it is important to trace the genesis of ideas that create businesses. And few things that actually generate business ideas are some of these. Yeah? Whatever I put here are just some possibilities. Okay? And of course there may be more possibilities. And me and Chetan will be try to also learn from all of you when you say something more than what we have thought of. And hopefully there will be a lot more ideas. So I'm hoping that our next presentation is going to be much more richer, because it will be all, inputs from all of you will get into that. So please, feel free to interact, stop, throw your ideas, challenge. This is going to be a very interactive session, and we will, moderate the content so that but not at the cost of interactivity. That's our goal. Yeah. Next, please. This is a classic .com thing, right? When suddenly everybody wants to put money in e-commerce or social media or whatever it is. and there may not be a apparent reason why that would happen, but there are waves, there are some flavor of the month, flavor of the year kind of waves that happen. Next, please. So when you want to join? So some of the questions that we ask when we are looking at the technology-driven businesses is how much of R and how much is D. It's nice to say R&D, right? Next. You don't need to write actually. Okay, one thing, you don't need to write. And this presentation is nothing, it has no ideas that are not present in the global domain or in the public domain. So there is no IP, there is no rocket science. I have not invented something out of the world. I'm happy to share, no problem. At the same time, please, what I really like to do instead of sharing the presentation, I hate sharing the presentation. The only reason is that it actually takes your mind off. PPT aane wala hai. And I know how many PPTs you get at the end, how many actually open, and how many you actually go through. So the last thing I want you to do is to get a PPT in the email or get a link to PPT, because I know I actually track how many PPTs get downloaded, and it's a fraction of what actually the attendance is. But I would like you to work on this a great deal and spend a lot of time. When you get back, when you go out of this room, if you have a better idea and some more ideas about your own business, that would be the takeaway. I'm happy to give you a presentation. I'm not discouraging you from taking the presentation, but there's nothing that is, very new in this. Okay. Whether it's going to actually see the light of the day. Are there IP issues? Am I going to be sued by Google or Microsoft for holding tons of patents, and their India office is sitting in Bangalore or Gurgaon, whatever, they're generating patents after patents? Does it solve a customer problem? That's a very important question that we need to ask. Next. I'm going to skim through some of these because I will spend more time given that we only have 2 hours on the actual business model. Does it create a new market, or is it replacing something in the existing market? And is there a big enough market? And when that market will be there? We know so many stories of technology products that were ahead of their time, right? And you spend a lot of time, a lot of VC money goes into it, but customers don't buy it. Next. What is it that is needed to convert an idea into a company? And that is actually the core of what we're going to talk about in the later part of the presentation. And the other important thing is, how do you test your idea for acceptability by the customers, right? Next. They get to know the idea or the customer's business, and they create solutions and products out of that. There are quite a few such companies. Any of you have tried something like that? So, I got so many companies that we work with who start working on let's say, a customer on, say, logistics and shipment. So is there articulated customer need? Again, some of the same questions. Next. Why should the customer be looking at you as its preferred solution provider? Again, the point is, what does it need to turn into a company? Next. I'm not going to read through the slides. Sometimes entrepreneurs tend to believe too much in their ideas without adequate customer validation. And that's what we call the hallucination. But an idea itself is not a company. So what does it take for us to convert an idea into a company? Next. Next. Okay. That's where we get into a thing of business plan, right? How many of us have heard this term business plan? Okay. Yeah. Take it. There's a very interesting saying that President Dwight Eisenhower, who was the America's general in Second World War, who actually became president in 19. It's the process to get to a plan. That actually, the thinking process, that actually is a key. The churn that happens in the brains of entrepreneurs, that is the key. And today, we will spend some of that energy in trying to churn some of our own minds. Next. So what is a business plan? The business plan is a hypothesis, right? It's a hypothesis. Hypothesis on some of these factors, and I'm not listing all, it's not an exhaustive list of all the things that you would include in a business plan, but it looks at some of these, right? Any major thing I have missed out? Size of opportunity, customer, competition, sales, marketing, business development, customer development, revenue models, patents, regulatory stuff.
Risk and mitigations.
Huh?
Any external risk and their mitigations.
Actually, that's a good point. External, there's a risk and risk mitigation is altogether a different thing. Or additional point. Actually, I put it at the back of the presentation today because I had included in this, but we won't have the time. But maybe in the presentation I'll share with you some of the risk elements. But risk aside, some of the key elements that anybody looks for in business plan. If I missed on anything, let me know. Next. So what actually is your business plan is a set of untested hypotheses on some of these aspects. Next. So when you say size of opportunity, what is it? What is the total addressable market? TAM and SAM, I'm sure you know this terminology, right? Total addressable market and how much of it I can actually address. Who is the end customer? Who is the economic buyer? What is the customer model in which he's going to pay you? Next. How are you going to make the sales happen? Next. And many, many more. It goes on. Okay. There is a very important element here, the business model, and all these parts, how do they work together, is the crux of the business model. Right? Next. Go ahead and test that. Next. How do you execute on that? And that's exactly where the difference between plan versus model comes into play. Next. Many times I get confused. When so what is it? Is my plan? What is the plan? What is the model? What is the difference between the two? When a plan can be called as a model and vice versa. Next. 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 So by and large, and this is something that that you find, business plan is a document that investors make you write, but hardly ever they read. They get, and how many business plans come? Maybe thousands, right? How many do you read? We have an investor, right? Yes, I'm asking. Next. But it's a great useful place to collect your guess about your business on some of these parameters. Next. And there is a template, right? So that when 20 plans come up, the VCs can actually say 0.1, 0.2 in all the plans and actually have a way to compare those, right? So essentially, what we are saying is a business plan is a sum of hypotheses. Next. And it actually takes into account some of the facts as you know them today, and a plan on how to turn those those hypotheses into facts. Next. If they turn into facts, Excel has a great functionality wherein you can extrapolate. You click on that corner and just drag that thing, and it will extrapolate from days to months to years to, and profits become exponentially high. Next. But there's a very famous saying by Steve Blank. He says, no business plan survives the first customer contact. Does it resonate? Yes? No? Yes? Absolutely? Okay. May not actually be a good option when we convert that plan into action. Right? That is where, next. That is where what we do is we search for a model. we search for a model that would allow us to iterate and test our business plan and iterate that, improve it so that it comes closer to the facts as you would like them to be. Next. So what is a business model, right? All of you have got a little piece of paper with you with color pens and things like that. So it's a diagram really. It's a visual diagram which shows all the flows between your company and your customers. And this is a very important bullet point, probably the most important one in the entire 2 hours, is that the business model is a rationale how an organization creates, delivers and captures value. Does it make sense? Yeah. Any quick comments on what you've been doing so far? I'm really going fast because of the time. But any comments on that? Anyone? If it is not a part of your business plan, I'm sure the VC will ask you for it. Because most investors, right, would like to see an exit in some sort. I don't know if exit should be a really part of the business plan, but what I've seen investors look for is a fairly good possibility of exit. And that exit could be in a number of different ways, right? It could be that you go IPO, which is very few companies do these days at the startup stage. But it also could be a trade sale. Are you creating a product or service that can fit into an ecosystem and then make it attractive for somebody else in the ecosystem to integrate? That's it. That's how most of the trade sales happen, right? That's how it happens, right? But yes, but I have not seen many business plans that have a stated kind of how we are going to exit. I haven't seen a lot of those. In fact, that may not give the right impression to the investor. But even if they don't tell you, they are always looking for this. And a way to say how you are a part of the ecosystem that can potentially find you or your venture an attractive proposition to buy would be a good thing to put in the business. Okay, coming back to the business model. Our idea, our goal today is to fit all what we are saying in one sheet of paper. Yes.
Putting that money, what is the way in which you can actually salvage it or be able to get back from the money?
Yeah.
So that's something that helps and definitely helps. We're looking at what worst case scenario.
So the question is that it's not just about exit for the VC or the investor, it's about some exit for the entrepreneur himself.
No, for the VC.
For the VC.
The guy who's putting in the money, he wants to know what salvage situation is. What is the worst case?
What is the salvage value? If nothing happens, what? Right?
What is the worst case scenario?
What is the worst case scenario? Right. And this all comes into the risk analysis part of the equation. I'm not going to spend too much time on each one of these topics. Actually, is worth a few hours of workshop. Actually, in fact, I have a few slides which I pushed back at the end on the risk management and what is it that one looks for. My suggestion is that all these things, exit, an exit for an entrepreneur, or if exit is not easily possible, what is the way out? All these are definitely issues in a business. We will stay clear of that for the discussion that we are having today. So the simple is that what we are trying to do is to articulate our business model today. That is our goal in the 2 hours that we have. And many of this subjects don't touch many aspects of your business. Each one of those aspects actually is a fairly intense discussion, and number of alternatives can spring out of any of those. But our idea today is not to get into that as much as understanding the concept of how we can lay out our business model. Okay. So if there is a question, I am sure there will be issues and questions that spring up, but allow me the liberty of saying, let's not discuss it in this forum, because it may take time and we may not actually achieve what we want to do. We have a real short time today, honestly. We had 2.5 hours, 3 hours initially, we made 2.5 hours, and now it's 2 hours 15 minutes. And we try to cover a lot of ground. So allow me to skip that question if you don't mind. Okay, next please. So, what is the business model? Just, some of these things is what we try to capture on that. Product, customers, how do we create demand? What problems does it solve? What budgets/resources it requires? How the value flow? What is supply chain in terms of your suppliers and stuff like that? So I have tried to put it pictorially. So you have a product, next, and you have users, right? Next. Users and customers can actually be two different things. 1 second, just hang on. Any examples of how users and customers can be different?
Google.
Yeah, can you explain that?
Population. And the customer is the companies placing the ads on the writing.
Okay, good. That's a good example. Customer is generally an economic entity that pays for the value. Any other examples?
Choosing all the products that we use. Customer would be, let's say, my mother goes and buys it. She is the decision maker there and she purchases it. But the user is the whole family. This is the simplest example.
Okay, good. Yeah, you are saying something else.
Job portals.
Job portals. Yes. So who is the user and who is the customer?
Employee is the job seekers are the users and job publishers are the providers.
Any other example?
Children at home.
Children at home. They are users or customers?
They are the users.
They are the? You pay for it. The parents pay for it, right? Okay, good. I'm sure your children was making you pay quite a bit. So I think that the distinction is reasonably clear to us, right? Customer is an entity that actually economically pays for the product or service that the organization pays. The users may be different. This distinction, sorry.
Just a variation of the whole discussion. Typically, you're saying a customer is the guy who is the economic payer, the final destination, who is going to pay for it. But sometimes need could be something different. The user could be driving the need while someone else is paying for it.
Absolutely.
Typical example is an education product.
Yes.
Now, who's driving the need and who's driving actually the paying? It's a bit of a gray area there.
Okay. So can you just expand on that a little bit? So we can.
Typically, I was actually looking at say, for example, a college model. Typically I target the customers. I assume the customers to be the students.
Okay.
So all the ads, everything is actually directed towards the user or the student. Whereas the parents are actually going to fund it. I'm not talking about the education at a higher level,
right?
But say till the college level,
right?
But the parents are actually going to pay for it,
right?
And does he see the need, or is he driven by something else?
Right. So this is a very interesting twist to it. We are not saying one way or another purchase decision. Right now, I am only saying who is the customer who is paying, who is the economic, who's kiske pocket में से पैसा जाता है.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked that question, because at one point we thought, is it a need that we're going to satisfy, and therefore define that as a customer, or is it the economic capability of someone to pay for it, which is driving the market size?
Right. So by and large, the customer would be defined as an economic buyer. Yes. By and large, okay. But the influencer for a decision to purchase may be a number of different things, and it could be totally unrelated. It could be even environmental thing, which is totally out of purview of any of those things. But the point is, let us, generally what happens is that in a business, right, when we define our customer as an entity that is actually going to pay for the products or services, and I'm going to come to that discussion a little bit later, but you want to treat them in a particular way, and you want to treat this group in a different way, and you have to find for your own business what are those nuances. Okay, we will get to that in a minute, but by and large I'm saying that the one who pays would be qualified as a customer. Let's further economic perspective. Today the problem is that the models are so complex that it's they're all intermixed with each other. But for the sake of simplicity, just for us to be able to articulate our thoughts in a clear way, let's make that distinction for now. And each business will actually have nuances or variations that will be so unique to that business that will be sometimes indistinguishable who that actually entity is. But for the purpose of our discussion, let's keep it at this level. Next, how do you create the demand? And that actually determines the user. Usually users will create the demand. Right? So while you create a dollar flow in one sequence, the generation of demand can happen at different sequence depending on your business again. Next. And the customers actually generate you the money which are going to pay for the resources. And these are some of the things, assembly, manufacturing, third-party integration, whatever it is. And just one example of what this kind of a flow can look like in a business, right? So next. Now what happens is you start with this flow and then you create a hypothesis of how your business is going to flow and test that hypothesis in the market. Just to take an example that was said some time back. The buyer is a parent and the person who is actually pushing to purchase has no economic power, but the parent usually go by what their children want their parents to purchase. So you really have to iterate this model. You have to iterate many of these things to arrive at how to get best way to get your product to your users at the end. Right? That's basically what we are saying. Next. Now you could be pivoting on multiple variables. You could be pivoting on distribution channel. Is this the right distribution channel? Is this the right demand creation mechanism? Are these the right channel partners for us? Or there are alternative channel partners? Are these the right components that become part of our product? And all these iterations and combinations actually